Hello everyone, it's me, your host Patrick, and last time I was here, your mum was... Wait, oh my god, it's almost Pokemon Day and I haven't made a topical video about what the potential announcements could be? How am I going to quit my lucrative day job for making Pokemon YouTube essays without exploiting audience retention by talking only about the most topical and relevant events in the media franchise that I'm invested in instead of topics and stories I actually care about? What will your mum think of me? Anyway, last video, your mum had me talk about what made a good Pokemon remake good and a bad Pokemon remake bad. And if you're anything like me, you love a good Pokemon remake. Another thing that would make you more like me is if you had a love for this music. That's right, I am a filthy Gen 5 Unova lover. Absolutely dripping with Gen 5 loving filth. I would do anything, and I mean anything, to let N sit on my... Oh shit. Oh, it's her. I need to take this. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, I gotta do that. Yeah. So that was your mum, and I think things might be getting a little serious. She's actually totally behind me making this video, so I'm glad that's not gonna drive a wedge between us. By us, I mean me and your mom, but I guess also you, considering the situation. So today's topic, like every good Pokemon YouTuber, speculating on Unova remakes. You know me, I'm the Pokemon remake guy, famous Pokemon remake framework creator, Patrick, that's me. And with Pokemon Day coming up, Unova remakes are at an all-time high in terms of speculation and theorizing and crafting and witchcraft and wizardry and none of that. But people are talking about Unova remakes a lot. You know what? I'm actually not holding out too much hope for these remakes. Or am I? Haha, gotta watch the video to the end to find out. You saw what I said about BDSP. And in my own personal opinion, I'm not gonna stake a ton of my emotions on a remake that's probably gonna fall flat before expectations. BDSP has damaged me. So rather than speculate on what might be a realistic remake, let's make our own. Let's make a black and white Unova remake that will make fans actually happy. We could even use that handy dandy framework. So join me as I, your host Patrick, take you on a journey through time, language, culture, and cyberspace to create the greatest Unova remakes ever conceived. This is the greatest Pokemon remake you'll hopefully play. Also, real quickly, I would just like to thank everybody who watched my last video. That being my first video on my channel, I was expecting 10 views, 9 of them being my friends, one of them being Jared, and nobody likes Jared. But it was crazy. To get thousands of views and tons of comments and almost 100 subscribers after my first video, absolutely crazy. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't watched that video, go watch it now. And if you're a fan of what I'm making here, please do all the interacting things. Like, comment, subscribe, watch this video all the way to the end, then click on my channel page and watch another video. That way, the algorithm knows that you love me, specifically, in the same way that I love your mom. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Watch this video at the gates. So you might have heard me talk about it before and are asking, what's your famous Pokemon remake framework? Great question. In my last video, we broke down what makes some Pokemon remakes really good and what makes some so fucking bad. I'm looking at you. Yeah. And to determine all of this, we devised a beautiful, fabulous 3-pillar framework. And if these pillars are constructed correctly with love and care, you should have an amazing Pokemon remake. Now, if you've seen my previous video, we're gonna say it together for the new audience, all right? What are they?
Hello, how are you?
Modernization, yeah.
I am under the water.
Reimagination. And what's the last one? Come on, you got this.
Please help me. Here too much raining.
Expansion. Good job, class. No beatings today. You've escaped my wrath. Congratulations. Look, if you're a new viewer, I know that this might be overwhelming. These are some pretty big words. They all end in shun. If you got that reference, leave a comment, please. Big words that end in shun. But these are some pretty big words, so if you have the time, and let's be honest, you do, Jared, if you have the time, go back and watch that video that I made on my channel, the past one, and then come back and watch this one. But if you're not Jared and you don't have the time, I'll just do a quick rundown for you now. Modernization. This pillar is about getting the games up to speed with the current generation of Pokemon. So all the latest moves, mechanics, all that stuff. It's really simple. This is like the baseline thing. Baseline anything for a remake, you know? It would just be a remaster if there was no modernization, if it was exactly the same as the originals. This is like the baseline of the remakes. If it doesn't have this, it ain't a remake, all right? Reimagination, the pretty pillar. The pretty pillar? Am I gonna call it the pretty pillar? No. Let's stick with reimagination. The reimagination pillar. The reimagination pillar is a bit of an enigmatic pillar. It's all about change, visual change, environmental change, storytelling change, but it's also mostly just vibes, you know? Like everything in life, it's vibes, just get used to it. It's the core part of the human experience. Everything is just vibes. The reimagination pillar is mostly vibes. But if you want a specific example, a good example of reimagination is Morville City in Oras compared to Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. In Ruby and Sapphire, it's like a quaint little village, but in Oras, it's like this big shopping center city thing, which is like a big change from the originals. I don't know if you've noticed, but big shopping center city, different from Little Village. And it's like based on, if you talk to Watson in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, he talks about how his dream is to like recreate Morville, like build it up, make it this big thing. And then Oras, in like a separate timeline, they fulfill it. That's reimagination. That's awesome. Reimagination doesn't have to be that big. It can be little things too, like little environmental changes, like little changes on routes, or they can even just be characters making new decisions or saying different things or doing different things based on the environment being changed. That's reimagination. It's kind of like lots of things. It's very broad and aesthetic. Like I was saying, it's very enigmatic, but that's reimagination. We'll dive deeper into it later. That's reimagination. All right, final pillar, expansion. This pillar is all about new content. So new content on top of the original games. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, this is Route 47, the Pokemon Safari, all those legendary and mythical events, and the Pokeathlon. In Oras, this is probably the Delta episode. It's new content. The expansion pillar is new content. Probably one of the most straightforward pillars, but honestly, one of the most anticipated parts of Pokemon remakes. You know, this is why BDSP sucks so much. So little expanded content. Expansion. That's the expansion pillar, new content. All right, you up to speed? Those are the three pillars. And if we're gonna make a good, great, amazing Unova remake, we're going to have to follow this framework. But there is a piece of the framework left missing. A really important part of this framework. You know, what if we didn't have to confine and constrain this framework to just remakes? What if you could venture outside the world of remakes? What if you could totally reimagine a region and its characters through the lens of passing time? What if you continued a story? What could we do with these pillars then? The opportunity is endless. Thankfully, we don't have to wonder that for very long. We were gonna have to lay down a whole bunch of groundwork to explain what we could potentially do, but thankfully, Game Freak went out and did that 12 years ago. Thank you, freaks. Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. All right, get ready for it. Here it is. Oh, it's so good. All right, these are my favorite games of all time. You guys are all haters if you think otherwise, all right? Listen to this. I'm getting emotional, I'm gonna cry. Okay. All right, we just stop the shit. It's getting too intense. I'm sorry. Oh, it's fine. I'm fine. Back to the video. Now, I know in my last video, I was literally frothing. You can, if you don't believe me, go watch it. I was literally frothing at the mouth about Heart Gold and Soul Silver being the greatest Pokemon remakes of all time. And whilst that's still technically true, I feel that Black 2 and White 2 are just the best Pokemon games in the series. Now, these aren't quite remakes, but despite this, they do have the best example of perfect pillars of reimagination and expansion in them of any Pokemon game in the entire series. So if we're gonna make the best Unova game ever conceived, we should start taking some notes. Just like I take notes nightly about your mum, because I'm constantly thinking about her. And it pains me that we can't spend more time together. At the gates. And now just as a little precursor to this, there ain't much modernization, all right? Black 2 and White 2 were in the same generation as Black and White, all right? They were both Gen 5. Modernization, not a big deal here, so we're not gonna talk about it. Is that okay? You know, we're missing a pillar. Is that okay? Do you understand? Thank you. Now, for those not in the know, Black 2 and White 2 are actually sequels to Black and White. Crazy that, with the whole 2 thing they've got going on. Anyway, they take place 2 years, 2 years after the events of Pokemon Black and White, and you follow a whole new protagonist who is helping out his rival slash friend Hugh take down Team Plasma because Team Plasma stole his sister's purloin. I'm going to fact check that. Pretty sure it's a purloin. And Hugh's crazy guy, he's got hair. You also do all the normal Pokemon things in this game, like gyms and like fun side things, and become champion and catch Pokemon. They're all still in the game too. All right, it's a Pokemon game, understand. But the thing not many people know about Black 2 and White 2 is that they're amazing. I mean, from a Pillar's perspective, they completely expand and reimagine the region, reimagine Unova through the lens of passing time. Better than any game that I've ever seen. There's an entirely new western section of Unova where you start the game in that's got its own towns. The big city there, Burbank City, I think really pulls off better than any other town in the Pokemon world the vibe that it's going for, which is that like industrial, portside, grungy city that through the characters and through how it looks, it's the best artistic execution Game Freak has ever achieved, in my personal opinion. There's also the completely new Lentamas and Humalau cities, Reversal Mountain, the Marine Tube with the Big Air Whale Lord. There's just so much new content in this game, new expanded content, new places to go that also at the same time reimagine the region as we saw it in Black and White. It feels so new and fresh. There's also those new ruins slash developments just north of Castelia City on Route 4 that show the change that has happened in time. Either the construction site in Black and White was an archaeological site digging up these ruins, or building an extension to Castelia City and building more apartments to deal with the increasing population. I mean, there's just so much stuff that the player gets to see that's happened in Unova in the 2 years since Black and White. It's so cool to see. It makes the world feel continuous and like living and breathing and immersive. I mean, in terms of returning characters from Black and White, all the characters that we saw in Black and White that are in Black and White 2 talk about Black and White and the events in Black and White. Like there were things that actually happened in the world. It makes the story again seem continuous and interconnected. But also the events that happened in Black and White inform these characters' decisions that they make in Black 2 and White 2. It's cool. It's just cool, okay? They haven't done it in a Pokemon game before. Well, not really. This is like the most they've done it. Chern and Bianca are back with new roles in the story. Bianca is now Juniper's assistant working in the Pokemon lab. She's actually the trainer that gives you your starter at the beginning of the game. And Cheren is Aspertia City's new normal type gym leader. There are also a bunch of other returning characters like Anne, Iris, Getsus, a ton of other people that you would have met in Black and White, a ton of the gym leaders. It's really cool. Some of them even reappear in new roles, like how Iris is champion or whatever. But like I was saying before, the main highlight of these characters' reappearance is that the events in Black and White have informed what they're doing now. Like Cheren, for example. He wanted to be the strongest, like a one Satoru Gojo. But instead of being off-screened by Sukuna, he off-screen trained his butt off to live out his ideals and dreams and became a gym leader to be the strongest. And this continuous story for these characters, again, just like the environments and the new cities and stuff, it makes the world feel continuous, connected, immersive, amazing. Also, this game just has 6 new characters too. Colress, the guy that's literally just like stealing Team Plasma funding so he can do his own research, he does not give a fuck about Getsus. He does not give a fuck about Getsus. But he also happens to be another history-aware character. Like, even though he's new, one of the first times you meet him on Route 4 when he's getting rid of the Crustals, he talks to the player about how old Team Plasma from 2 years ago was stupid and they had dumb brain and they weren't doing anything that really made any consistent, idealistic, logical sense, all right? How it was kind of dumb. Again, based Colress, stealing money from Team Plasma and criticizing their initial goals. What a guy. But little details like that, like new characters talking about what happened in Black and White, it all adds to that level of continuity in the storytelling and the world. I believe the term they use is world building. I just realized that now. I didn't write that in my script. I don't know. The world building is, for the first time in Pokemon, is good. And so like I've been saying, all these environmental, world, region, and character changes intertwining the ideas of reimagination and expansion really make the world feel continuous and big and like it's all one world and things are changing and it's really cool. Pokemon games, they used to feel all episodic, you know? Hoenn to Sinnoh, it's like the games don't exist to each other really. But Black and White 2, intertwining these two ideas of expansion and reimagination, I think make the most compelling and best Pokemon experience to date. I just love these games. So if we're going to make another Unova remake, we should probably look to Black 2 and White 2 to inform a lot of our decisions about how we're going to make this game. So I'm talking about intertwining reimagination and expansion through the lens of passing time. So here we are, we're going to make the game now. This is the new Pokemon game, new Unova game, all right, that everyone's waiting for on Pokemon Day. Everyone's getting really excited about. Now, I'm not going to be prescribing a specific story for these games. I'm just going to throw out ideas that I think will help create these strong lines of interconnectedness and cohesiveness and continuity between Pokemon games, all the games already in the series, and Yuma. Now, I don't know how many in-universe years have actually passed since the original Black and White games. I'm pretty sure it's like one-to-one with the real world. So if you know that I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. I would love you to interact with this video, even if it's just to shit on me. Please do it. Thank you. But if it's anything like the real world, a lot can happen in 12 years, all right? I live next to this suburb, different buildings now. Okay? Understand. All right, let's run through the pillars. First things first, modernization. We're gonna be like 4 or 5 generations on from the original Black and White. So basically, we just need to bring everything up to speed with where we're going to be, whether that be Gen 9 or Gen 10, whatever's happening with these potential remakes. It just needs to be modernized. Now, I imagine that means we're going to be in a 3D world, but now, since BDSP has existed, it's thrown like this weird, generations aren't necessarily consistent. Like if BDSP is considered Gen 8, but like it looks so different from sort of, I don't know. You know, it's like the lines are kind of blurred now. So they could also maybe do like some HD 2D thing with a different art style. But we're just going to run under the assumption that it's going to be in whatever the style of Scarlet and Violet is, or the next generation. It's going to be 3D. We're going to run around, have a great time, great jolly time. I would love, though, for them to make an HD 2D remake in the exact style of Black and White, like the visual style, but make it look good, like a modern game. That would be beautiful. That would be my favorite. The Gen 5 art style is literally the greatest thing my eyes have ever seen. I love Gen 5. All right, reimagination and expansion. We're lumping them together because they're intertwined now, okay? They're one. Drawing from the best ideas of Black 2 and White 2, these games will be taking place in the current day of Pokemon, so soon after the events of Scarlet and Violet and the DLCs. Also, they're going to be context aware of all the previous games that have happened in between Black and White and these Black and White remakes. Does that make sense? Events that happened in Sun and Moon, characters are going to know about it, all right? Events that happened in X and Y, characters are going to know about it. Events that happened in Scarlet and Violet and the DLC, people are going to know about it. Sword and Shield, characters are going to know about it, okay? They're going to be part of the world. And all of these things that have happened are going to affect current day Unova, the games that you're playing. So I think to do this, we should draw on some important Unovan characters that already exist, like N, being possibly the most interesting Pokemon character ever, and being Unovan, he should be in the game. And I think he should have an important role. I'll get to that later. In terms of evil teams, I personally don't think we need another resurgence of Team Plasma. We've already had one, and they kind of got booty blasted both times. Unless they have a really creative new, like, in-theme evil plan justification for their actions, I honestly don't think it's worth bringing Team Plasma back. Maybe some Team Plasma characters who like help give background lore and stuff to the player about what happened in Unova in the past, which is possibly affecting the current events of today. But Team Plasma necessarily, I don't think we need. Maybe we could have a resurgence of another evil team. Maybe we could have a completely new evil team. Maybe we can break outside the formula entirely and we don't need an evil team necessarily. But of course, some antagonistic force. Churn and Bianca returning, obviously awesome fan service, but just like in Black 2 and White 2, they're probably the best examples to returning players of the time that has passed. So like if they're both following their paths that they went on since Black and White and continue on that from Black 2 and White 2, maybe Cheren is actually the strongest now and he's champion of the region or something like that, and maybe Bianca is actually the professor taking over Juniper's role. That would be really cool. With Cheren's thing, maybe he can also, if he becomes champion, maybe he's restructured the whole gym system, changed what towns they're in, or maybe it's completely different and he's made it look more like Gala's region. I don't know, something like that that shows how time has changed and also continues the story of some important Unovan characters. I think that needs to be in the game. Talking about characters in Unova, Blueberry Academy, that was technically, like, they're all Unovan, right? We met a bunch of blueberries. we met a bunch of blueberries. We met a bunch of children of important Unovan characters like Lacey and Drayton, coming from presumably Clay and Drayden. I don't know if that was confirmed, but it seems pretty on the nose, not gonna lie. And so it would be really cool if they showed up in the game, making the Scarlet and Violet story continue into Unova. This is what we're all talking about. We're talking about continuity and world building and depth and immersion. And so having those characters in the new games would make the world feel connected. And that's what fans love, all right? Trust me. I played these games my whole life. My opinion is the best. But Lacey and Drayden, though, maybe they are friends of the player or rivals, or maybe we just see them interacting with their parents and they're not even that important of a character. But it would be cool to have them in there because it makes the world feel connected. Maybe Kieran's in there and he's like trying to win Unova or whatever. That would be cool. And it makes the events of the Blueberry Academy real, and you work with Drayden and Lacey to help calm him down if he snaps again. I don't know if that is a good idea, but just something like that makes, or that brings Scarlet and Violet and the DLCs together with the new games, so that the Pokemon of the story world, the story of the Pokemon world is one and continuous and believable and less episodic. In terms of the actual environment of the region, I think seeing more urban development or like more old stuff, like how Black 2 had more development and White 2 had more old stuff. If they're just making one game, I would honestly go with the Black 2 approach with more of the urban development. But because it's sort of Black and White 2 have that like times dividing line, like you play different versions and they have different stuff like White Tree Hollow and Black City, and then also how Opelucid is two different things as well. More of an expansion of that, but if it's going to be one game, maybe you like go through portals or whatever. There's some way to go between the two. And if that's the case, we have both more ruins and more like expansion of the White Tree Hollow, or in the modern time, we have more expansion of Route 4. So Castelia City is actually bigger, and they actually put Times Square in, because when I was a little kid, all right, Times Square was like the coolest shit I've ever seen. And they were making a black and white game based on Manhattan and surrounding area. And they didn't have Times Square. They had like that one Pikachu billboard. That's not enough. Can they put that, please, in the new ones? You know, expand Route 4. It's all huge now. You're going to have space, all right, 3D. If there's no Times Square, I'm literally going to... I don't know what I'll do, but put that in, please. I just want that, all right? Personal thing. I want that. But basically, more of an expansion of the ideas of Black 2 and White 2, where we have more ruins and more urban development and urban expansion. All right, we can have new areas as well. One idea that I had that I thought was really cool is, you know how from Black and White to Black 2 and White 2, Driftville City got really rich off Clay's mining. Maybe 12 years from now, they've run out of whatever that they're mining, the crystals that they're mining. And so it's not that big of a mining industry, and the town is sort of more of a tourist town. And Clay's actually moved his entire operation to a different part of Unova, and they're mining something else. And so we have tourist town, and there's a new area with a new mine, and that can actually play into the story. Maybe they're mining for something, they find something about this big thing, story stuff, story time. The original dragon, that's what everyone's talking about, right? This game needs to answer a lot of the questions that were just like floating in the air at the end of Black 2 and White 2, and that have kind of maybe been sort of hinted at in other games, but have just never been properly addressed. Like Yin Yang Shell, what is the original dragon? So let me just break this down. There have been a bunch of mysteries in Unova that have been left unanswered, right? And also just a bunch of mysteries in the wider Pokemon world that haven't really been answered up until this point. And this game would be a great opportunity to answer some mysteries, and like any good Pokemon game should, create new mysteries and new unanswered questions. Like I was saying before, main thing people want to see is the original dragon. And original dragon means more Reshiram and Zekrom and Kyurem. And you know what that means? That means more N. Sweet, dreamy, succulent, smart. Syllables. N. Sweet, dreamy N. And he's coming just for you, Toya. Is that how you say your name? I follow you on Twitter. Follow me back. But yeah, N and the original dragon. Maybe it can help answer some of the 3D era's like biggest questions, like why does each game have a different battle gimmick that has something to do with some ethereal energy that everyone has some sort of an explanation of due to the legendary, but nobody knows how the legendaries get this power. They just do. Does Arceus give it to them? Does the original dragon hold the key to the source of all of this, like infinity energy, Dynamax energy, like Will we get explanations for that? This game could do some explaining. Maybe the original dragon can help answer some of these big mysteries in the Pokemon world. Like, I'm thinking Arceus energy, original dragon, making other legendaries have energy that's based off whatever this original energy was, but it's named different things like Infinity Energy, Dynamax Energy, Terrestrial Energy, your mom's energy, and the original dragon will answer that, and that will be really, again, musician, not a chef, but chef's kiss. But the reason I bring up a story like that is because you want something that ties the stories, the different narratives of these regions together to make the Pokemon world again feel interconnected, like one cohesive event or series of events that are all connected and happen in the same world, because that's like a really compelling experience for fans and players. Have you guys seen that one meme that was going around a couple months ago? It's like the Pokemon lore and the Pokemon gameplay, where it's just like the Pokemon gameplay is literally just mashing A, but then the lore is like awesome. Everyone loves the lore. I think that's a really good example of what the Pokemon community really likes about Pokemon is the lore and the mystery. So giving us some answers, obviously not kill the mystery entirely, but giving us some answers about the lore, it would be a really cool fan experience, and also tie the world together a little bit more, like wrap it up in a nice bow and bun. And I think recently I'm kind of on the hopium train, but this is where Game Freak is taking the franchise anyway, connecting things together. Think before PLA, like I was saying before, everything in the Pokemon world kind of felt episodic, like the games were barely connected. Like Kanto and Johto were connected a little bit over time, but Hoenn and Sinnoh barely. Like the Regis appeared, there's Regigigas, but it's like they feel separate. You know, Unova felt completely separate from everything else. But maybe it's connected to Kalos, maybe, you know, there's all of these maybes. Generally, the games themselves have felt really episodic. But since PLA, we've had the introduction of time travel between two different stories, like Diamond and Pearl to Hisui, and we've also had the introduction of ancestors, and then later in Scarlet and Violet, children and grandchildren and stuff. And so I think the whole introduction of ancestors is an effort by Game Freak to make things more continuous and cohesive and interconnected and immersive. But I'll talk more on that in just a moment. Another set of mysteries in Unova that really needs to get answered in these remakes is the bloomin' Abyssal Ruins. Please explore this more. The whole ancient civilizations theme is a huge part of the 3D era, like all those wars that happen between Paldea and whoever, and Kalos and whoever, and Galar and whoever, and Unova and whoever, like these things need to get answered, and it seemed like the Abyssal Ruins was going to answer some of this stuff. And it's also just a really cool like puzzle feature. You have to go down into this like timed era, you have to decipher this code, and then you have to decrypt it as well with the Caesar cipher. Like, that's cool. I feel like we don't get much of that in Pokemon anymore. That's really cool. So more answers from there would be cool. And anything that does to like pull the Pokemon world together would be greatly appreciated. So the big thing for these Unova revisits, I'm naming it right here, revisits, all right? Not remakes, not whatever. We're gonna call them revisits because they're like sequels, but other shit has happened too. So they're revisits, all right? So the big thing for these Unova revisits, like I've been consistently saying in this video, is drawing the wider Pokemon world into the story to make the world feel like a big, immersive, continuous, interconnected world. We want to see that the passage of time has actually affected things that are going to be currently happening in this remake. And just like their blood predecessors, Black and White 2, made Black and White story continuous, these games need to do it too, just with the whole Pokemon world. But you know, all we can do is hope and pray. But my hope is pretty high. You heard me talking about PLA before in the introduction of ancestors and children and grandchildren. But since then, the Pokemon world has felt more interconnected than ever. And that's actually really exciting to me, hopeful that this is the trajectory that Game Freak wants to take the Pokemon game franchise. And if you don't believe me on the Pokemon world building and depth that Game Freak is putting into these games these days, I have a suggestion for you. This video by Taco. It's called There's More Story in Pokemon Legends Arceus Than You Realize. It's a long one, but it's an amazing video. It dives into those little environmental details that enrich the narrative and storytelling of PLA. I would highly recommend it if you are in a Pokemon franchise hopium chuffing mood. It's an amazing video. Link will be in the description. Now, to pull all of what I've been talking about so far into reality, famous Pokemon detail leaker Riddler Ku, who is a bit of a character, that I'm currently, as you're watching this video, writing and editing a video about. So subscribe for that one, gamers. Anyway, quite a while back in 2023, Riddler Ku revealed a leak from another leaker on Weibo, who's also very highly regarded and has a good track record, that there are these games in development called Paradox Unova. Which, Paradox? Paradox? That gets me really excited. That makes me think that they're at least tying in some of the ideas from Paldea and Scarlet and Violet, or the Blueberry Academy, which is the world interconnection I've been talking about, all right? Of course, take all of this with a massive mountain, large, maybe even a mountain range of salt, but it's these little nuggets of hopium that are like enough to get me excited about the future of this franchise. Because ever since BDSP, we've been in a bit of a letdown. We've been a bit sad about it, honestly. You have too. Even Jared's been sad about it, and he's normally not with the rest of the crowd because he is a freak. Again though, stay tuned for that Riddler Coup video. He is definitely very mentally stable, or not, or I guess you'll have to see. Watch the video when it comes out, all right? Turn on subscribe notifications with bell, all right? So you know when it comes out. With the bell. Anyway, that about does it for me for this video. Hopefully your mum likes it. It was kind of conditional on our date that we're setting up, that she has to like it because she requested it. So I'll see how that plays out. I'll let you know, because I wouldn't want you to miss out on your own mother's dating life. What sort of potential future stepfather would that make me? Anyway, stay hyped for the eventual, inevitable coming Unova revisit, even if it's not, announced at this Pokemon Day. It's a coming down the line later. And if it's anything the tiniest bit like this framework I laid out today, it's gonna be pretty fucking high. Please, Game Freak, let that be the tiny shred of continuity and world building, please. If you've made it this far, do all of that liking, commenting, and subscribing. Go visit my channel page, watch my last video, watch all my videos again and again on repeat, because you want me to succeed and quit my day job. All right, thank you, brothers and sisters. I will see you at the games.